those of you who've been here, they already know this. It says, please adjust the mic height. So I'm trying to get used to that. Thank you for that very kind introduction. I don't know about the word esteemed, but seasoned, I think the hair can tell you that. I was very pleased about coming here and speaking with this audience. The one, I guess, concern I had was the fact that it was a Friday afternoon slot. So I wasn't sure how many of you guys were still going to be here, but I'm really pleased by the fact that it still feels like a very full room and a very engaged audience. So I'm going to talk to you over the next 10 minutes or so a little bit about what is it that we've been doing with generative AI since this whole thing came in and shook up our world, let's say about 6 or 7 months ago. But the fun part of what we're going to do is later on, where we'll actually show you a snippet of what we've been doing with our customers in terms of real live work. And hopefully that gets you a sense of what's the power of what can be done with generative AI and why is there such a big buzz about it. Let me first start off with a little bit of an anecdote. So we've been in the analytics space 20 years. We've been talking to our customers for all kinds of different things about the data to insights to outcome story. And over the years have done all kinds of work in terms of predictive models. Last few years have been working on machine learning. And we were working considerably on AI and using AI for generating business outcomes even before generative AI came around. Now, one of my stories is about a client that I was meeting before ChatGPT came out and after. Very specifically, my first meeting with him was before the 60 Minutes news story came out on ChatGPT, and the second meeting was with him after that. In the first meeting, his point was, you know what, yeah, I've seen it, feels like something that's interesting, something that the kids are playing with for their homework. And in the next meeting, he was like, okay, so when can your team come over and do a session with us and show us what your use cases are? So the difference between those two was the CEO of the company saw the 60 Minutes program and basically had been talking to the CIO from that point on saying, tell me what is it that we are doing, tell me how is it that we are adopting it. And that really has been a little bit of the story of our life. For the last 6 months, what we've been working on is talking to a whole host of different industry leaders across industries. So we work with banks, insurance companies, healthcare, retail and media. And what we've been talking to them about is multiple use cases of how generative AI can start impacting their businesses. And we've been talking to them about how can they implement it. So what I've got for you in the next couple of slides is a distillation of some of those conversations. I hope you'll find it interesting. So let's start off with, okay, where are the conversations at? So at this point in time, every company, and within those companies, the CIOs, the marketing officers, in certain cases, folks that are actually leading business operations, they're all focused on saying, okay, how do I need to incorporate this? What is it that I need to do with it? And depending upon their level of sophistication, the level of progress, they really fall within 3 different buckets. Almost all companies right now are planning what they want to do with it. As we enter the budget season, as we think about budgets for 2024, every single company is focusing on saying, what are the carve-outs that we need to do for generative AI? What are the investments we need to make? When I talk to CIOs, this is the single biggest item for CIOs in terms of their investment pool for next year. Now, the folks that have already gotten started, almost all of the effort right now is on starting to build the foundation. And I'll get into a little bit about what the foundation means, but effectively this is the preparation that you're doing in terms of saying, which is the team, who's my governance body, what kind of models am I going to choose, and so on. And some folks, some companies that were actually working on already using AI earlier are now looking at actually executing it, and they've gotten their POCs onboarded, and we'll show you one of those examples later. Now, this is, for us, this is how we've been talking to our customers. It's effectively saying, in order for you to tap into the power of generative AI, what are the key components that you need to have? What are the key components that you need to build? So I'm going to start from the base first and go upwards. You obviously need technology infrastructure. And this is where I think the hyperscalers, the AWSs, the GCPs of the world, Microsoft with Azure, they've been dominating the conversation because it's a question of saying, okay, what do I do with the tech infrastructure? Where is my AI infrastructure going to live? And in most cases, the conversation is about cloud and how do you deploy the cloud. The next decision, I think, is the one that most people focus on the most, but as I'll show you, the effort tends to be elsewhere. And the focus is, okay, what are the models that I need to adopt? So am I going to go with something that is open? Am I going to go with something that is cutting edge, that has the complexity in it, but is a little bit open, is a little bit of a black box? Or do I go with something that is more open source? I can incorporate it. The trade-offs and a lot of the questions keep coming on those sides. Now, one of the things people haven't really focused on right now, but as they get into practical uses, is going to be what's the cost of operation between one set of core models versus the other. And that's actually a massive difference between things like a GPT 4.0 on one side with its massive compute costs versus something that is a much smaller model on the other side, like a Llama, which can actually deliver similar output, vis-a-vis on a lower compute cost. So some of the key decisions that are getting made today are on that basis. I think the next three layers are the ones that are critical. There has to be a focus on the data sets. So once a company, let's use an example of an insurance company, once they decide that they need to use generative AI, you still need to, and you've chosen a core model, you still need to train that core model on insurance-specific terminology. You still need to have a data ontology of saying, well, here's what premium means, here's what insurance terms mean, here's my data set, and I need to train the data set on there. And that's where a bunch of work is happening today in terms of saying, okay, what is my derivative model? Can I create a derivative of the LLM that I've gotten from outside, and how do I teach it to kind of understand my business? And from that point on, once you've created that, then you start getting into the use cases, the business applications of saying, okay, now that I've trained it, now I can deploy it in conversations where I'm talking to customers about claims, I'm helping them, I'm helping an agent who's helping someone buy the right insurance, and then create the feedback loop that kind of keeps making that better. So the whole cycle, starting from the cloud environment, the core models, training the core models, and then focusing on the applications and creating a reinforcement loop for the applications is what I think is the overall value chain for generative AI today. Now, as you can imagine, companies are attacking this in a number of different ways, but these are the critical components that we are talking to them about and helping them through those decisions. Let me keep going on, showing you a little bit of the example of, okay, so what are the types of use cases that folks are focusing on right now? And what we've done here, by the way, at EXL, we've already built about 50 odd of these across industries. So we're talking to our clients across a whole host of different use cases. But at the highest level, you can break them out into three different buckets. And those buckets are effectively things that are internal facing, things that are in the middle office, and then use cases that are customer facing. Now, for regulated industries, most companies tend to be on the internal and the middle office side of it because they want to draw a line on saying, I want to make sure that I don't expose an AI directly to customers before I've trained it, before I've tested it. And for some other use cases, I think companies are using it on the customer-facing side as well. But to give you some of the quick examples, on the internal side, code generation is probably the most highly used use case right now in terms of saying, here is something that I can use to kind of reduce the amount of coding effort, dramatically take cost out of coding, and this is the one that's getting the most amount of hits in terms of saying, okay, this is something I need to start incorporating. On the middle office side is where I think some of the most powerful use cases come. And we're going to show you an example of this, of something that we call agent assist, where you're still exposing the AI to someone internal, but then that person is getting trained by the AI to have a more effective conversation with the customer. So the value generation is very real, very quick, It's a powerful way of using it. And then finally, on the customer-facing side, a lot of the work that we are doing right now is on that marketing bucket, hyper-personalized marketing. The ability to actually customize each message to an end consumer at the point at which they want to make a decision, and getting it to absolutely the right level of sophistication. So there's a ton of work that's happening across the board, and we feel pretty excited about the kind of impact that all of this can generate. I'm going to come back to the guiding principles. Actually, let me just give you a quick overview of the guiding principles. This is something, again, we are talking to customers about and saying when they think about it, what are the guiding principles they need to adopt? And there are two that I'm going to highlight here on this page. One is on the lower left-hand side, which says human in the loop. Almost always at this point in time, when customers are implementing something that is using generative AI, we are advising them to make sure that there's always a human in the loop that looks at the output of the AI and then has the ability to actually correct it in certain cases as an expert, or in other cases is being guided by the AI. So the idea is, and especially for regulated industries, don't expose the consumer to the AI right away until you've tested it out. And the other part that we feel is very important is actually the work that we've got here in terms of security and compliance. So for us, the way we've incorporated AI in what we are doing and what we are doing for our customers, it's almost always a curated data set. It's always within our client's firewall and is something that avoids the data exposure. So the two guiding principles effectively that I want to highlight are always within the firewall without any data being exposed to the external world. And number two, always have a human in the loop, which makes sure that any errors or hallucinations that the AI does can be caught, trained, and kind of dealt with. So with that, let me just go to showing you a quick demo. Now, just as means of background, this is something that is right now getting constructed for one of our clients. We are showing you, it's got some information redacted, some information anonymized. But what we are showing you is actually a real call that happened. We've dramatized it a little bit, but the capabilities of the call and the actual conversation are real. So just to set the context, this is for a utilities customer. The call that we're about to play for you is a difficult call. It's basically a call about someone who's unable to pay their bills and is basically saying, I can't pay my bills, you need to help me, to the utility company. It's a very tough call. In a normal circumstance, that call is only handled by the most experienced agents, the ones with the greatest amount of training. And what you'll see here is how can the AI actually help make that call a lot more effective. So without further ado, I'm just going to ask, can I play it from here?
Effectiveness of the call. For the purpose of this demo, you will be listening into a mock call and how Smart Agent platform is powered by generative AI works.
Hi, you've been connected to Utility Collections team. My name is Jessica, and I'll be happy to assist you today. May I have your account number, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right, and could you just confirm your full name and date of birth?
Kate Harding, 1st of June, 1990.
Perfect. And how about your full address?
101 Leslie Street, AD01QA.
All right, and lastly, please confirm if your email address is still kate7499926@gmail.com.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I do see there's an outstanding balance of 1,011 pounds and 11 pence. Are you calling to make a payment today?
Unfortunately, I have no income whatsoever at the moment. I'm actually due to give birth on Friday, and my husband lost his job. I'm obviously not working because I'm about to give birth, so I'm just in a very difficult position right now.
Congratulations on your pregnancy, and I'm really sorry to hear about your financial situation, Ms. Harding. Let's see how we can best help you today. Will an alternate payment plan or maybe a switch to pay-as-you-go meter work for you?
Sorry, that won't work either since my husband has put out a couple of applications, but he hasn't heard back. And if there's no gas and electricity in my house, it will be very tough to care for my newborn.
Oh, I see. Well, given your circumstances, I recommend that you contact Step Change for assistance.
Okay, I'll do that.
I can send you an email regarding Step Change and a few other organizations that might be able to help here. As the process, I'll put your account on a 30-day temporary hold with the hopes that your financial situation will improve.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And since you're expecting a child, I recommend that we register you for Priority Services Register, or PSR. Essentially, you would be prioritized to get power back first in the event of power failure, and there are a few other benefits too. Also, there's no extra charge for PSR.
Oh, okay, thank you. That would be really helpful.
All right, I'm just going to add you. There's also a short script that I need to read to you. While the Priority Service Register contains your personal information, we assure you that anything you provide here will be treated in the strictest confidence. By submitting this form, you consent to utility suppliers storing this information to allow us to support you. There are additional benefits associated with sharing this information with relevant third parties. However, we require your permission to share your details before we would do this. This is to ensure that they are able to support you correctly and your details will not be used for any marketing purposes. Please indicate whether you consent to your details being shared with the relevant parties.
Okay, yes, that's fine.
All right. So, Ms. Hardy, I'm just going to recap our discussion. We have put your account on temporary hold, and I just sent you an email on Step Change and a few other organizations that can help. We have added you to PSR as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of course, and thank you for your call, Ms. Harding. Once again, congratulations, and we hope that your financial situation improves.
Thank you so much.
So just wanted to highlight some things. So I hope you were able to follow along with the call, but what you saw was that the AI was actually offering hints throughout the call. So in this instance, what we were doing was taking the unstructured data that was coming through the conversation, passing it through the AI, and getting the AI in real time to recommend to the agent what they should be doing at any step of time, at any point in time. You saw the alert up front for empathy, which, believe it or not, was a very, very important alert, because when folks are new in this job, they don't really get that, right? You saw the alerts for the options, and you also saw the feedback loop. When the first option didn't work, if you remember, there were 3 options. The first one didn't work. The agent moved to the second. That became part of the reinforcement loop right away. Now, in this particular instance, this was actually, like I said, a call that our client used to always handle internally, because they wouldn't say, for a call like this, they'd say, look, it's going to go into this queue and we'll manage it. But over the last few years, with the attrition that's happened within the industry, they were short-staffed. The reason they loved this demo is because it gave them the confidence of saying that using AI, you can actually have someone who's early on in their career, who doesn't have this level of experience, but can manage that call probably in an even better way and more effectively. So the power of the AI was very, very apparent to them. And I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of that. So on the left, you've got here what was the call basically without the AI in a traditional sense. On the right, you've got the same call that is now going through with the agent assist. You can see the dramatic difference in each stage in terms of what was the call before and after. So we've effectively shaved off about 45 to 50% of the handling time. But that's probably the smallest of the benefits, because the other big benefits are probably even more important. So take a look at in terms of the customer experience improvement. So customer sat improved by about 10 percentage points, a massive jump up. And on the right-hand side, you see the error reduction, which is the fact that the information that was getting captured in that live stream, the categorization of that information, the ability to tag it securely, all of that jumped up dramatically. So as we're talking about generative AI and we're thinking about why is there such a buzz to it, I kind of go back to examples like these, where I think the power of the machine to help a human comes through incredibly clearly. And that's the one that I think is where most of our clients are going right now in terms of the adoption. We are seeing things like this across industries, in insurance, in banking, like you saw in utilities. We're seeing these examples are the ones that companies are jumping on and saying, I'd like to get that because it's instantly taking up my level of service for my customers up, and it's helping my employees at the same point in time. So with that, I'm just going to pause, and I think we are exactly at time, but if there's a question, I'd love to take one, or later on, whichever.